Oh, doing great, Rich. Crazy times in the NFL.
All right, first reaction when you heard about the Geno Smith situation.
Well, I just heard. I just thought it was incredible. You know, I've been around a lot of training camps. It's hot. People are moody. But it's usually linemen that are fighting and not, per se, a quarterback. And now you lose your quarterback for an extended amount of time. And obviously the Jets were very upset and cut the guy that, you know, was a perpetrator.
Yeah, and rightfully so. I mean, you've been covering the NFL for a long time. I use the example of Starbuck back in the 70s with the Cowboys, the last time I can recall a starting NFL quarterback, and he's a Hall of Fame quarterback, getting in a fight with his own teammate. At the time, it was his competitor, another quarterback in Clint Longley. I mean, I can't buy into that this kind of stuff would even escalate to that point.
Yeah, it's incredible. And the last time we really saw something like this was Steve Smith and Ken Lucas with the Panthers back in '08, and Steve Smith and him patched it up, but Smith had to sit some games out, and
yes,
they had a laugh about it. But, you know, the quarterback is the most important person on the team. And let's face it, the Jets, yes, they have an alternate plan with Ryan Fitzpatrick, the guy who had a pretty good season with Texas last year. But this is going to leave them in a deficient situation.
Yeah, it is, and I think for those who think they're better off without Geno Smith, I mean, we've seen Fitzpatrick and we've seen Gailey in Buffalo, so how'd that work out? All right, preseason starts for the Philadelphia Eagles on Sunday, and still the question is how many, if any, snaps will Sam Bradford get? And look, this is the way I look at Sam Bradford, Lloyd. This is my honest look on Sam Bradford. I can't go by the if or when healthy. I think he's a good quarterback. From what we've seen, that small resume. But for people to sit here and dismiss the fact that this guy is injury prone, you don't have a resume to build upon. I mean, it's just a fact. So you're hoping that this kid is upright. So my thought is, if that's the case, you have to get him in the game. You have to give him some snaps. You have to give him live action, and you have to see if he's going to take a hit.
Yeah, and everybody's saying, and this is what I've heard around the team, that they're going to give him 2 series and see if he can step it up. But you're right, Rich. He needs to play football. Let's face it. He missed all last year, didn't play a lot the year before, and he's the key to the whole Eagles season, and he has to face live fire. I've talked to a lot of guys that have been at camp every day, and they say how great he looks. But anybody can look great when nobody's coming at you. So this is an opportunity for him to step forward. And you know, I know the Ravens aren't going to have any all-out rushes, but it's a good chance for him to go out there and see some live fire.
Yeah, and they begin their preseason Sunday in the afternoon against the Colts. Let me ask you this. It's kind of going, I don't want to say unnoticed, but they also lost 40% of their offensive line. And certainly when you want to have a style of offense, what's conducive of ground and pound and running the football, you know this. You want to have your guards pull. You want to have these guys trap. You want to have them pull out, especially with a north to south runner in Murray as opposed to an east to west runner. It just seems like a lot of people really, I don't know if they're just dismissing the fact that maybe they assume the offensive line is going to gel and come together. But I also think if that offensive line collapses and it falls by the wayside, it doesn't matter who you have back there in center. You're not going to have a quarterback.
I definitely agree with you, and that's a key area that I point out over and over again is the offensive line and the defensive secondary, 2 areas that are in flux. And let's face it, he gave some good players away. Guys that didn't get along with, particularly Mathis and Boykin, and he may need those guys down the line. So a lot of question marks with the Eagles, and you're right, with the offensive line, they have to do the job first and foremost. Murray needs a lot of holes to run through. He had the best line of football with Dallas last year, and these guys got to play similarly to that. And then let's face it, Bradford, as you said, it's hard to keep him upright, but he's got to play 14 games this year.
Tom Brady is in New York as I just call it. It's not even Deflategate anymore. It's just it's utter nonsense, and the fact that it's being drawn out this long, it tells you a lot. Now, his attorney Jeff Kessler admitted that Brady could have handled the cell phone issue differently, but he said it's the most overblown issue in 40 years of law. And the more I think about it, look, I don't think he's going to serve. I don't think he's going to get suspended. And I'm not even going to blow a gasket on this one. I'm not even going to go off on it. Just I just have this. My gut tells me when it's all said and done, he comes off scotch-free, and we're going to see Brady in Week 1. As crazy as it sounds.
Yeah, well, that could possibly happen. I know the judge does not want this thing to go to court.
I know.
Get dragged through the mud in front of everybody. So they got to work something out here. And I think maybe you do see Brady say, okay, I'll take 2 games and not admit to anything. But, both sides got to protect their face and not walk away with the egg. So the public is watching. And as you're saying, we have spent too much time talking about deflated footballs in a game where the Patriots won so handily.
And I would be okay with 2 games. And you're right. I mean, I think you if he doesn't, the more I think about it, if he doesn't, really the backlash would be even worse. Court has broken. Settlement talks still continue amongst litigation and negotiation, and the judge has said that he has not made up his mind. So this is going to get dragged on and on and on. 2 more quickies for you. Ray Rice, we talked a little bit about him at length about a week or so ago. We mentioned a couple teams out there. It doesn't look like the Texans are going to take a flyer on him. Now there's a report. It's not confirmed, but it's out there that maybe the Browns are looking into Ray Rice. Come week 1, is Ray Rice suited up? Is he playing for an NFL team?
Oh, that's a great question. And it's probably going to take another key injury here or there. But Wilbert Montgomery, who was his running backs coach with the Ravens, definitely has an eye on Ray Rice. So, Mike Pettin doesn't seem opposed to it, so maybe that may be where they're going. Right now, they're not happy with the running backs there, so that could be a logical spot for them.
I want to go back and ask you one more thing regarding the Geno Smith situation. And, understanding you do work for the NFL Network, which is basically under the guise of the NFL. So not trying to put you out on the spot here, but it does seem, though, that when you look at some of these team websites through NFL.com, on NFL Network, on these sites, they are almost promoting these fights at training camp. Whether it's the situation that happened, what was it, with Des Bryant. You also saw Washington, the 2 teams the other day, and it totally escapes me. They had the big
Houston and Washington.
Thank you, Houston and Washington. Exactly. Perfect timing, right? They're pushing that. They're promoting that. Watch this, watch that. Then you had this situation with Geno Smith, already been an awful offseason for the Jets, along with Sheldon Richardson. Do you feel kind of strange, though, that the NFL doesn't want to promote this because it comes out looking negative, but yet they are promoting it just to capture more eyeballs, and people are going to want to watch. So to me, I think in that regard, they're contradicting themselves, or at least they're contradicting the message, where they don't want to advocate for this nonsense, but yet they're cramming it down our throats.
Yeah. As usual, NFL talking out of both sides of the mouth, and they want all the money that comes with everything, but they also don't want all the criticism. And as you know, certain coaches do like fights in training camp, and the public likes to see these guys getting it on, but they don't want anybody to get hurt, because then it becomes a bigger story than it needs to be. So, the NFL continues to preach they no fighting, but certain coaches do like guys fighting out there.
Yeah, I don't think Todd Bowles does. So has he lost?
No, he's not one of them.
Has he lost his story? Exactly. No, not at all. All right, my friend, I appreciate it. We'll talk more next week. Have a good one.
All right, thanks for having me on.